Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Just a Sec podcast, where once again we just do a lot of random bullshit and have a lot of fun doing it. With me, as always, I have Emeraldas, as well as today we have a new person joining us for the first time, I think, in this new running, KnightWolf.
Hello.
Hello.
And yeah, today we're just gonna go on a little spiel about some stuff, and we have a exciting thing planned here later on in the podcast. But for now, we're going to just let's just go over just simple stuff like how's your lives going and all that fun jazz. I know some of us are going through more exciting things in their life currently, as well as the fact that two of us should at least be prepping for a trip coming up as well.
Yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Riveting talking.
I was gonna see if you guys want to talk about the trip because that was where you ended it.
Well, Knight, what are you excited for about it?
I think that the thing that I am most excited for is because last year, we went to Austin, Texas for the Rooster
Dead
Teeth
convention.
Con. Yeah, and that was just a huge letdown. But I think just a little more upscaling, a little more chance to kind of get a little bit of everything, not just Rooster Teeth exclusive stuff, and get to meet some pretty cool people.
You can meet your VTubers.
I'm not a huge fan of VTubers, to be honest.
I don't have a problem with them so much as long as it's not bait. Like, as long as it's not a guy playing a female or whatnot. If it's a female playing a female, I don't care if they, like, change their appearance or anything like that. Just, as long as it's a female playing a female and a guy playing a guy, it's fine if they want to do the trans thing, but as long as they're open about what they are.
Yeah.
So that way it's not just bait to get people in. Kind of like oh crap, what was that thing to where you could join one-on-one chats and it was usually just people masturbating all the time?
Oh dear fucking god.
Fucking VR chat?
No, it wasn't. No, VR chat doesn't have masturbating in it. It's crud, I can't remember what it's called. But it was like a one-on-one video chat that you could do, and it usually involved people masturbating all the time.
Omegle.
Yeah. And then, like, you'd have the people that would put on a very feminine voice and dress very feminine. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to rail you so hard.
Come home to mommy. It's like, ew, no, go away. No, stop it.
You're not my mom.
You're not my real mom.
You're not mommy.
You're a daddy. Hi.
But no, I honestly have I'm not a fan of VTubers, but I have nothing against them. But other than that, about the con, I am really trying to get myself a little more people person situated. Like, it's still gonna drain the shit out of my social battery, but I really do want to work on being a little bit more social, and I think the past couple years with Rooster Teeth has been very, very good for kind of building that up. And then this is not necessarily going to be a crescendo, but it is going to be very good for me to kind of step a little further out of my shell and meet some cool people, have some neat conversations.
Yeah. Ooh, wait. They actually released panels? 12:30 to 1:30?
They released the panels?
Oh, they released a couple. It looks like there's going to be a Has-Been Hotel / Hell of a Boss panel.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I'm sad.
But, no.
If I get one autograph during that time, I want Blitz's autograph.
It's going to cost you $50.
I know, but still.
He's like, it will be worth it.
It was worth it.
Yeah, I would pay 50,
no,
but that's only because
but
that's
if I
the
like
cheapest I've
see
seen.
someone outside of the con and I'm like, hey, if it's all right, can I like just get an autograph real quick, take a picture, something like that?
Fuck off!
I'm be like, wow, okay. Fuck you too, buddy.
But yeah, you can get your favorite VTuber Filion, or Sarui, or Cinder, or Nyanners. I thought there was a couple more. Monarch, which apparently Whiskey is a fan of Monarch, I think it is.
Yeah.
But that's because
Monarch.
she used to do like creative stuff before becoming a VTuber.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think not necessarily panels, but the person that I would most like to like say hi and like shake their hand is probably Christopher Judge.
Oh. Also, here's a fun thing. There's gonna be wrestling there.
Wrestling?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's pro wrestling that's gonna occur on the floor.
Ooh.
And apparently there's a scavenger hunt that's gonna be called Side Quest.
Ooh.
Interesting. But
I would like to amend my previous statement. I'm looking at some of the guests now. It's kind of a three-way tie now between Christopher Judge, the voice actor who did Jujutsu Kaisen Pink Hair. I'm a terrible fan.
Jujutsu Kaisen Pink Hair?
Yeah, the main character.
Oh, Yuji? No.
Yeah.
Was it?
No,
Yeah, it was
Yuji. No, Yuji is
Itadori?
Yuji is No, it is Yuji Itadori.
Yeah, I was about to say I knew it was Itadori.
I don't know why, but for some reason, it's probably because I've been watching it a lot. For some reason, my mind went My Hero Academia.
No, that's
it's
what's his face? That's All Might. Well, it's All Might Smash. They definitely didn't do on Izuku's mother.
All Might Smash. But no, the voice actor for Yuji Itadori and the voice actor for Gojo.
I could see that. I mean, realistically, I think if I was to get anyone, it'd be Richard Horvitz, the one that did Moxie.
Yeah.
Just because he's Billy from the Grim Adventures of Billy Mandy as well as Invader Zim. I mean, that's childhood right there.
Yeah. Invader Zim was my childhood.
But no, I'm excited for it. It's gonna be weird going to a event that none of us have ever gone to. It's gonna be like going to RTX the first year. But it's gonna be weird that it's gonna be so much culture thrown into one.
Yeah.
Versus RTX, it's like generally all RTX based stuff. This one is like DC, Marvel, anime, everything thrown into one.
DC, Marvel, anime. Oh shit.
K-pop.
Not too far off there. There's a voice actor for a show that my niece really likes, actually. Oh,
Nice.
neat. Who might have to find a way to get a picture with her.
Oh, here you go. There's also a lip sync contest
Nope.
in cosplay.
Oh, good God.
I'm just saying, if I had 4 other people to do it with, that would all dress up in Ruby stuff, Backstreet Boys.
Yes. I would be absolutely down for that.
Backstreet Boys are in sync.
God.
I did more in sync than Backstreet Boys.
Both of them just can go die in a hole for me.
Well, that's because you're weird.
Am I?
Yes.
It's gonna be May.
Or
Why
pop.
am I weird?
You know why you're weird. Some of us grew up where that was what we had.
Yeah, and that's what I grew up in too. It doesn't mean I have to like it.
Well, if you don't like
Lies.
it, you're weird.
Fake news.
It's like the people that don't like Green Day or Fall Out Boy. They're just fucking weird.
You have to remember, I'm older, this is the stuff of music that was in my schools as well, especially high school and shit. The whole like every girl wanted to date a Backstreet Boy and NSYNC and yeah, just
So we agree that M is just weird.
Yes.
Can't win for losing, can you?
yeah. I was the I didn't do pop music.
Holy shit, I picked a hell of a time to start watching My Hero Academia. There's a lot of fucking My Hero Academia voice actors going.
Yeah. But it's gonna be interesting going there because, like, even just like their main image, like G Fuel's center stage, and then like a bunch of like indie artists. It looks like it's gonna be interesting. I don't think. Well, actually, no. With the fact that they've got that side quest thing, I feel like Wormwood will probably be there again.
Oh,
Dude, if Wormwood is there again, I am 1000% getting another set of dice.
I tend to do it every year, and it's just the downside is mine keeps getting more expensive. I buy. I guess the next thing I gotta buy is a table or a chair.
No, that's gonna be me. Because again, I wanted a game table, right?
Yeah, but the issue is I would never buy a game table unless I had if I actually used it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Enough people in close proximity to where it would actually be like a, hey, D&D is at my house this weekend.
Well, it's not just that; it's any board games too. Because remember, I'm the board game queen right now. Compared to most people who buy board games, no one has the collection like I do. Because I have over 200 actual board games in my house. And that's card games too.
All the games of cards.
All the game of cards. And then some.
But yeah, it's gonna be fun. I don't foresee. I feel like the one that's gonna be odd man out, or the person that's gonna have the most issue, is probably realistically gonna be Whiskey, due to his social anxiety he has sometimes.
Yeah.
And the plus side is the first year he had his other friends that went to RTX. And then
So
this past year he spent a lot of time with us as well because they didn't show up last year. And this year is just gonna be us. I don't think there's gonna be much of an issue.
No, I think he'll be fine.
But no, I'm
not gonna push it too hard. I am 1000% gonna poke fun if he spends most of his time in the hotel room. But I'm not gonna push him too hard because he's kind of in the same boat that I was going to cons when I first started going to cons. It's like I don't know what I'm doing here. Help.
Hey, you know what the plus side is? Also someone else who is a sponsor for Level Up this year is Secret Labs.
Oh, sick!
So you get to test out some of their seats as well as see the table I bought, most likely.
Most likely.
Well, it depends on if they actually have it and everything. Because sometimes they won't bring their really big stuff depending on how much floor space they end up having.
Yeah.
I think Whiskey
floor space that they are allowed to have is has a huge impact on what certain booths are able to like show off.
But I really am excited for it. One, because it's also in Las Vegas, meaning that, worst case scenario, if the expo itself isn't like fantastic or anything like that, we still have Las Vegas to do.
Yeah. If the con itself ain't that great, all it's hyped up to be, Vegas sure as hell is.
Yep, we can go broke on the strip.
Get hammered and gamble.
Yep, because you're going to see a lot of high-end cosplay here. Like a lot of high-end cosplay. Like you saw some high-end cosplay at RTX, but this one's going to be a lot bigger.
Oh yeah.
But
I think my favorite high-end cosplay that I've seen so far is someone did a Star Wars Clone Wars mashup with Yang Xiaolong.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember them last year.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. 'Cause I am a huge Star Wars nerd.
I thought it
Huge.
was Mandalorian twist on it. Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was part of like the Mandalorians, not Clone Trooper, because they had the cape and everything.
Well, there were some that still had that. I thought it was like Clone Wars Jedi armor because they had the yellow lightsabers to match.
No, because they had the Mandalorian helmet.
You and I
Or
are
the,
thinking of two completely different cosplays because the one I'm thinking of, she had the blonde wig.
Oh, maybe then. I don't know. All right. Well, I think 15 minutes is enough of talking about level up. Em, how about you? What you got going on?
I found my steampunk collection
Ooh.
by random as I sent pictures. Again, the pieces that I've showed you are one of a kind, and the people who made them don't exist anymore, as I just found out.
They shut down or something?
I don't know what exactly happened. I'll have to see if I can find anything, but I couldn't find anything because we had it. So the place is called, like, the group was called the Red Queen Black Legion.
Yeah.
Now you could still kind of find stuff online, but it's all from Europe. But it was a gothic steampunk community, and like I've been invited to even go to their balls and stuff because, again, I had my own collection, and if anything, you want to see fantastic outfits, these were like the people to see. As well, everything's top notch. Like my goggles are made with real brass. The pocket watch I have I paid, I think, $80 to $100 for it, but it's one of a kind. And now it's even more just because, one, the company went under. But I'm really into the steampunk community and stuff before, so of course, like, this was just a fun little find that I accidentally found in the box I wasn't expecting. I was showing Knight because you remember the skull, do you know?
Yeah.
Well, I told him, like, I told you guys, it's from a larger collection that came from a death box is what it's called. And I kept the cardboard box because the death box is very interesting. And there was only so many made, so I couldn't get rid of it. And I thought I had some of the more just stuff from that collection in there. I didn't. It had my steampunk stuff in it and my jewelry and stuff. So I was like just losing my mind just before we started, just because I'm like, holy crap, I honestly was so choked thinking that this stuff was gone. Because this stuff was and will always be like a big part of me.
Yeah.
And, each piece I ever have bought from the company, and I almost bought like their steampunk gun that was like over $300, but it was a masterpiece because the guy who did the work here where I lived, he was an older gentleman, but he mastered his skill. Like, every piece you see that he made was, one, unique. Nothing was the same. There, like, he might have had like the goggles for sale, but none of them had the same design. All of them were very different. He put a lot of love into them, so each piece just meant a lot, right? So, like, the fact of me losing it was just a really sad thought. So the fact that I found it just makes my day.
Well, that's always good.
Yeah. Don't want to lose them again, that's for sure. But like I was telling Knight, like, the goggles, the straps are getting a little too stiff, so I guess I'm gonna have to get all cosplay steampunky again. Or that shit's gonna just be tough and just be nothing but display worthy only.
Yeah.
Because everything that was made, like that's the one thing I always stick to, especially when I talked about these guys. Everything isn't just for show. It is legitly work. You can use it. It can be worn. It can be wound. Like the watch I showed you is real. It works just like any other pocket watch. You wind it up, and she ticks, and it's beautiful.
Well, that's always good.
Mm-hmm. And like with my goggles, I have like the Oct Eye that I show, like I have.
Yeah, the one that has like that would be like the zoom.
Yes, but I can also change it out because I have the lenses in the case, and I have 2 red lenses and 2 green lenses, so you can change it up too, which is awesome. But again, I've always liked the Octi. That was why I bought that one.
Yeah.
And do not ask me on the price on that one, because I remember when I bought it, I cringed, but I smiled and said, I'm fucking buying this.
It was probably one of those like, my wallet.
Yeah, it definitely was. I remember when I bought it. I couldn't really buy much more after that because I spent most of my money at the steampunk booth at the convention, and I'm just sad that they're gone, because I've been to a couple of conventions even before COVID, and I haven't seen them, and I was wondering what was going on, but like I said, I just happened to look it up because I was curious, because I was thinking of getting back into it again, because it was one of my hobbies, and I did enjoy that community, and it was sad to see that they're gone. But who knows what happened? I'm sure I can find information on that.
Because it could have just simply been that they just weren't making enough money to be worthwhile and just decided to retire and do like custom orders or whatnot.
Well, no, the site for my town is gone. The
Well, they
only
can.
site, but the
Uh,
only site I saw wasn't even their site anymore. It's just a Europe site. It's not even in Canada anymore.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It might be like custom orders, like literally custom. Like you contacted them directly.
Yeah. Well, like
I'm
I have
not
all the
saying like
information.
I'm not saying it's still a business because if they do it as a business, they have to pay taxes and everything, and doing custom orders for business is not very logical.
No, but like I
Versus
said,
like
I
if they
looked.
did like 1 or 2 people coming in every now and then that are friends of theirs already, or people that have previously bought.
Well, like I said, like because I had all the information in my stuff that I found, and when I even tried looking them up, like there was no contact, no group for it. So I don't know what happened, but I do know that they had the one thing for the guy who passed away, and he was the main creator for anything that was with the metals.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it just kind of fell apart. I don't know if COVID kind of broke them or whatnot.
It could have just been that since he passed or whatnot, that they just
Fell
decided to
apart.
stop out of memory of him or whatnot. Didn't want to tarnish his name or anything.
Yeah. Well, I do know, and it's funny because as we always, like, the fact is I'm the oldest one in our group, but when I joined their group, I was the youngest. Like, legitly, some of them were like over 20 years older than me when I was coming into it. So these guys, like the ones that I knew very well, are in their 60s right now. So it might just be also an age thing, right? They didn't get enough young people to join, or people who were kind of like me who did join, but unfortunately life kind of pulled them away. So who knows?
Yep, who knows?
Who knows? But I'm still happy with my find. It's part of my history and something that I do enjoy.
Wait,
Yeah.
it's always nice when you find the little bit of stuff that can just remind you of it.
Yeah. And I'll make sure that they get displayed again soon enough, because I've never been embarrassed by this hobby. I mean, it was part of me, and I mean, I've always enjoyed the because, like, I even told you, like, for goth, I wasn't like, I kind of did like the punk goth at times, but I was more the historian. I was the steampunk historian goth. And that's why I got along with this group, because I liked the classiness of it.
Yeah.
But I like the dark velvet of it as well. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think that we did a lot of discussion, a lot of fun stuff was talked about.
Mm-hmm.
How about we get into the fun little game I got planned?
Sure.
Let's do it, I guess.
So, growing up, when I was in high school, every now and then we did a couple of debates and everything. You know, sometimes it was over topics that were of little importance, like what's better in the school lunches, chicken or pizza. Pizza always won, of course.
Duh.
Up to more serious sides as far as like history of rough subject, but it was a debate class of were certain things Hitler did good for the world or bad for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And most people did not like being on the good side because that meant you had to fight for what his beliefs were.
Well, of course.
So instead of doing
Wonder
one
why.
that is a bit rough, I decided to do a topical subject because most of us have grown up in video games or
Yeah.
played video games of some sort, especially recently. Besides me, one person grew up in a very toxic video game environment. So, speaking of toxicities, the debate of today is toxicity needed in video games, specifically in like competitive video games? So
I think it's everything though.
well, I was saying more in the competitive gameplay.
Okay.
Because if we do everything, then it kind of it makes it to where it makes its way into kid games.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's why I was
yeah.
saying target it just in competitive, where you're always striving to be good, if not better, than the other people.
No
Yeah.
Club Penguin, got it.
Yeah. And so before we even did this, the other night off stream, after I finished streaming at twitch.tv/section8,
Shameless plug.
Shameful.
we rolled for it, and M got to decide on what she wanted to do before even knowing the topic, and
Which isn't fair.
No, it was perfectly fair.
No, it's not. I should have been able to know what it was so that I
No.
could pick the one I wanted.
No,
Uh-huh.
that's
No.
not how debate club
That's what
works.
fair is, though. You make a decision before you know how it will affect.
Yeah. So
I'm bugging.
M got to choose that she was for toxicity in competitive gameplay,
Yeah.
and Knight is against toxicity in gameplay. Now, during this, it's going to be 100% friendly because we're all friends here and there's no need to be at each other's throats for any reason. And we all are good with that. But as well as randomly, I'll throw in a game that has seen both sides of toxicity as well as sportsmanship.
Okay.
So, I will roll a die to decide who gets to go first. And once I roll it, I'm going to let y'all choose a number between 1 and 20, and whoever's closer goes first.
Mm-hmm.
This way is very fair because I can't say pick a number between 1 and 20 because everyone knows what my favorite number is and they'd already choose it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The number is rolled. What? You know what? Since M won last time, Knight. Pick a number between 1 and 20.
13.
All right. M?
9.
Well, you know, I mentioned my favorite number. I literally rolled that. It was a 4, so M gets to go first.
Okay.
All right. Is there? Because now you're telling me that there's games that you want to go straight with. So, is there a game that you want to hit first?
We're going with opener first, like the normal debate goes. Both parties are going to get an opener, and I'm going to give y'all what are we thinking? 5 minutes for an opener?
I don't even think I could do 5 minutes.
Sure.
Well, 5 minutes a maximum.
We never had debate in our school. You know, it's so weird hearing that.
Oh, that's weird. I'm
We
sorry
had
for you.
debate in my school, but
No.
I never really had any interest in it.
Well,
No,
aren't you
we
glad you
never did
did?
debate.
Fuck.
Yeah, no, debate was never in our school. Like, it was never in our policy. And I was in, like, really competitive school, too, but no debates.
I love it
Wasn't,
because it makes people have to really think, makes you have to get better at communication skills, as well as critical thinking on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
All right. So tell me when you're ready, Em, and I'll start the timer.
I guess I'm ready.
All right. And you can go.
All right. Well, since we're just going on the straightforward, I do. Like, honestly, as much as people don't think toxicity is important in a game, it is needed. And I mean, we look at society as it has grown, and even like with the competitions in all video games, if there isn't even just a little bit of toxicity, it doesn't push people. We can look at some games that have, softened, and it just kills the game, because then you don't have the people who are going to actually push and get things done, and then you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and then people complain about it being too hard when it's not. It's just a part of skill that nobody wants to learn. So without that, people who really do push people to become better, the fact is, it's just, how much are we going to give into people? Like, I guess the best way to say it is, we baby people enough as it is, and a lot of games now have become more babied, but it's the toxicity that makes or breaks a game as well. And that's where some games that you might not even think is competitive becomes a competitive game, and even becomes a sport that people do watch, and people end up playing on the big leagues and can win money. But without that little bit of push, it doesn't push people to become better at what they do. And you don't get to see some of the abilities that people have. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Are you done?
All right. Yeah, I'm done.
All
Hold on.
right. With 3 minutes and 3 seconds to spare on that one. A lot of good points in that one. Oh, can you stop kicking me? Thank you, baby. And then when she gets back, because I wanted to make sure that both of y'all are here for the entire time of it,
Yeah.
I will let you go, so that way you have a rebuttal that you can do for her so she can listen in. So that way when we get into the application aspect of this debate, you can actually use each other's topics against each other. Aren't you so excited for debates?
This is why I try to avoid politics.
Well, this ain't politics.
Right, this is madness.
No, this is friendliness.
No, but in essence, that's what debate is. It's just fancy politics.
It's
what
just
politics is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, yeah, because the original idea of debating was actually like being very much level-headed during the entire debate and getting points across without being insulting or counterintuitive to your point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was suddenly being yabbled to.
Oh,
So
you're all
I had
good.
a
Yabba
mute.
dabba doo.
Yeah.
All right, now you ready for yours?
Does it mean anything if I say no?
5 minutes starting now.
Okay, so as much as M made some very good points, I suppose what I'm going to be touching on more is how toxicity can actually ruin a game for a large section of a developer's what the demographic. There we go. The target demographic. It can actually make an experience less enjoyable for some people, being that a lot of competitive games, if people are constantly lording over the fact that they did better, then it's gonna damper a lot of people's competitive spirit. and eventually they're going to get bored with the game because all they ever experience is people talking smack to them and essentially making them feel like they can't get better. And being able to just sit back, chill, and just important aspect of a lot of people's lives, particularly lives of people who are working constantly. That toxicity negates their ability to play a game and just relax for the night. So the big thing that I would like to touch on is, yeah, as I stated before, how it can just hamper a target demographic's desire to play a game. That's all I got.
All right. 2 minutes, 44 seconds. So, you had 3 minutes and 2 seconds left. So, with that, you are able to rebuttal anything he stated, bring it up in a point, and this will be your time. You can use it until it expires, and then you're done. And then he will get to use his remaining 2 minutes and 44 seconds to rebuttal against what you say. And then from there, we go into talking points. So, tell me when you're ready. All right, go ahead.
Well, I understand like the theory of like people just wanting to chill and stuff, but at the same time, when you go and play a game that is meant to be competitive, you're going to get hit by people who are not just trying but exceeding. And if you're going to slow them down, especially if you take like some of the FPSs where if you have that one teammate just not pulling their weight, it's going to sometimes end the match. And of course, it's a killer. It's just like I'll use like some of the MMOs. I had a conversation with Knight about that. It's the fact of if people don't pull their weight, stuff can't get done. And in those games, raids are big. Raids can be 8 to 12 hours long. So if people are not doing their job, and it's just because they just want to be relaxing, then why are they doing some of the hardest things in a video game as well? And I've been very well known for even being toxic, because at the same time, a job in a lot of things, it's like you have to pull your weight in a lot of these games. And if you're not pulling your weight, you're just dragging everyone down, and it kills the fun for everyone. Yes, you might get yelled at and stuff and then make you feel just ridiculously dirty or whatever, but at the same time, you're in a game that is meant to be fast-paced, thinking straight on your feet, working with mechanics, and if you aren't doing it, you're just it ruins not just one person's fun as well, it ruins everyone's fun. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, so you're conceding your final minute.
Yeah, I'll save it.
All right. Well, Knight, hearing what her rebuttal was, you have 2 minutes, 44 seconds. You ready?
I guess so.
All right, starting now.
So, in the context of MMOs, not everyone is part of a guild or a clan or what have you, whatever your MMO of choice is, their version of a group that plays together. In the context of those, yes, people are kept in line. However, there is still toxicity that is completely unnecessary, such as griefers, people who lord their status over you by destroying you over and over and over without even giving you a chance to figure out how to rebuttal. And in shooters, there are some mechanics that devs put in to give those maybe less experienced or less skillful players a chance. And oftentimes what I have found is
Excuse me.
people will abuse those mechanics. For instance, Call of Duty, the new Modern Warfare 3, the devs added a 6-round grenade launcher, which people will spam to no end, and trap you in your spawn without giving you a chance. And I understand that competitive nature. I play Call of Duty myself. I play multiple shooters that are team-based where you have to play an objective. But abusing mechanics in a game just so you can get a competitive edge
30 seconds.
is not optimal, because again, you're just gonna end up in more difficult lobbies if you do that. People who are going to know how to combat it, and they will stomp you into the ground, and at that point, what is it worth? And I've said my piece.
All right.
Okay, I can add to that. Because now you're talking about griefers, not just toxicity.
All right. Each party will have 1 minute, which, since you did not go under your 1 minute, so you got a minute and 1 to use.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this will be the final rebuttal on both parties, and then we'll be in the talking point stage.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
And go.
Well, my thing is, as you said, griefers. Now, there's a difference between normal toxicity and griefers. I do see your point at that as well. But at the same time, I know for myself, and I'll use Dead by Daylight for griefers, because they're the ones I've seen the most. You get the people who come in, and they're just there to cause chaos. May they be a killer or a survivor.
30 seconds.
But I do know for one thing, as much as they do kind of ruin it because they take advantage, at the same time, they either make or break people as well into the game. Because you got to deal with it, because there's always going to be somebody there. If you can't deal with it, you're not going to do well.
10 seconds.
I'm done.
All right. Knight, your final rebuttal. Tell me when you're ready.
Ready.
And go.
In the case of Dead by Daylight, I understand that if you can't deal with it appropriately, that you're not going to do well. But at the same time, said griefers, there's been an influx of a lot of people getting into games like that. And if there are people who are brand new to a game who get into a lobby, they don't have a chance to learn the mechanics, to learn the game, because let's be honest, facing the AI is much, much different than facing an actual person. And I understand that competitive nature, wanting to win. Again, I play a lot of shooters, competitive-based
10
games,
seconds.
and quite frankly, I was new to a lot of it, so when I got griefed, it made me not want to play.
Time. Finish right at the buzzer.
Buzzer beater.
All right. So I think we started to bring out a little bit of fire in this conversation. So we're going to go into the hot topics, things that y'all are very much focused in, as well as some stuff that I would like to bring up as well. So I think y'all beat the horse dead with the idea of griefing.
A little bit.
But going into the idea of griefing, I think exploitation is a fun topic to talk about, because that is often used when you bring in the idea of toxicity of gaming, is that some people don't do a trial by fire, they do a trial by torture almost, to where they'll literally use game exploits, especially when they just want to be a certain type of individual, basically an ass, and make someone want to stop at times, where they'll use just a very easy exploit or something. So I'm going to give y'all a second to deliberate on that if y'all need it.
Go with the wind.
All
Run
right.
it.
And we're going to give y'all both 1 minute with this as well. And since M went first in this debate, Knight, you get to start off. So remember, your talking point is you're against the exploit. M, you're for the exploit.
All right. Run it.
And go.
So in the case of exploitation, I understand that there are some mechanics put in place for certain reasons. I generally have an issue when there are people who abuse said mechanics. In Call of Duty, as I said, they added a grenade launcher that has 6 shots. They're not giving anyone a chance, which again is going to hamper the player base and make less and less people want to buy the game. And ultimately,
25.
it is the devs are just hampering their own ability to sell the game. I'm done.
All right. Well, M, are you ready?
Yep.
Let's
So
get ready to rumble. Begin.
Alright. So my thing about exploits, and to be honest, this is actually an opinion that I actually do believe in, is as much as people look at exploits as wrong, my thing is if the exploit is not meant to be used, the devs should be taking them out. If they can be used by anyone. That's the thing. A certain thing that, to help you get through something, if anyone can do it, it doesn't stop anyone from
25.
not. And what?
25 seconds. 20.
Oh, and it's the fact of it's not just one person's skill, it's anyone can use it. And if it's there, and if it's and clear if it's a big problem that the devs, the creators have an issue with, they should actually remove it. That's my feels on that.
And time. All right. I think we got some pretty good talking points out. Do either of y'all have like a 5-word thing y'all want to say to the other one based on your response tonight? All right. Well, with that one out of the way, that was one of the bigger ones I was expecting a little bit more heat off of because I can see both sides of it, but I'm gonna save my thoughts for closing. That's where I'll give my opinion on both parties.
Okay.
So we've got exploitation out of the way, which I was going to add in hazing, but I include that with exploitation because that's what usually most people do for hazing, especially when you're first getting into competitive. They usually do the exploit to make it a haze. So instead of doing something like that, let's talk about the language side of this. So, like, the people that do, like, a berating style or anything like that, like, non-complimentary remarks, basically. Like, we're not going positive reinforcement. We're going, like, calling someone an idiot at times, or, like, say, like, the people that get mad when something goes wrong. So, that's where we're gonna go into this night. Once again, you're against people getting super upset spaghetti and competitive, and Em, you are for it. Em, we'll let you start off this time since Knight started off last time, and tell me when you're ready.
Ready.
All right, and go.
So like when it comes to like language, you can always tell someone like, "Oh, you're doing so good," but at the same time, that doesn't help the thing, because especially when you are trying to get shit done in a game, sometimes that negative is a positive. Because there's a lot of times where people just aren't doing what they're supposed to do in a game. And that little bit, yes, like, you can be super negative, but just telling them, like, it's going to be okay doesn't normally push them. You got to push buttons, and especially in high stakes,
20 seconds.
you're always going to get frustrated, right? So if they can get through getting berated as well, they can hold their hat through anything, is the theory, right? Because you're going to get flustered in games, and if you cannot work through it and stay solid, you're not going to be able to play those competitive games.
And
Because
time.
as soon as you get angry, you play worse. There.
I knew you were gonna try to go over on me this time, Em. I knew it. I set a timer and she's like, fuck your time.
My brain.
The bell doesn't dismiss class. I do.
Dong dong. I'm gonna lay in my corner.
All right, Knight. You ready?
I guess so.
All right, and go.
So, I do understand your stance on the beration to where it's going to push them, but there is also a side to that to where you don't necessarily have to be toxic. Instead of beration, you could, or even just that it's going to be okay. You could do what some of my mentors in gaming have done, to where they give me little tips and tricks to be like, hey, try this. Hey, I see you're struggling to hold your own weight. Have you tried this and this in tandem with this? You don't necessarily have to be
15 seconds.
toxic in order to get your point across of, hey, you're struggling. Here's a way you can get a little bit better.
That all?
That's all.
All right. Another good one to cross. Both parties did have some good insight on it. I do see both of the logic on both parties. All right. I think what we'll do, because I do want to do something unique after this as well, and we'll have a little bit of time left. We'll do closing arguments at this point. Both parties will have 2 minutes and 30 seconds when it's their turn, and then at the end of the 2:30 of both parties, we will actually have a minute window to where you can debate back and forth. All right, so Knight, you get your final closing thoughts, and you can start now.
Toxicity, as I stated in my opening statement, toxicity is not necessary. I understand that there are some people who need it, but it is not necessary to either keep people in line in order or to get them to be better. Replace "you fucking idiot" with "have you tried this?" and actually teach them and try to help them. And in the case of stuff like griefing, that is killing player bases, which is halting, not necessarily halting, but hampering the ability of hampering a developer's ability to sell a game. I've said my piece.
Dang, he stopped early. All right. Em, your 2-minute 30 rebuttal. Go ahead and start.
As I say, in some games, oh gosh, it's the fact of, I do believe that toxicity is needed in some games, especially any of the high competitive ones, because without it, and to a point, the toxicity is also part of the sport. It's just like watching even like the basketball players and the wrestlers talking smack to each other. It riles them up and it helps in their competition. It's the same thing with toxicity in video games. It's just a little added fact. Some people can't handle it, and I will agree on that, but it is needed, especially in competitive styled games. Brain, I'm done.
Oh, okay. All right, with that one, y'all will have 2 minutes to do to each other just a head-on-head debate. I'm sure this is gonna go wonderful. Now remember, civility is key. Don't overtalk people unless they are just continuing to rant on and banter, basically. Show courtesy. If someone's talking, try to let them talk unless you need to finish your statement. Because remember, it is on a 2-minute timer. So, yeah. Are both parties ready?
Guess so.
Let's do it.
All right. And just so there's not 2 people going at it at the same time, you start.
Right.
And go.
I don't think there's any game that I wouldn't have a little bit of toxicity in, is to a point, especially when it comes to fighting games. Compared, like we talked about before, like Dead by Daylight, Crop Night, the FPSs, League, like MMOs. I mean, even like Among Us, toxicity is the main key point to all of those games, and they're needed in their own nature. And they make or they break the game, but to a point, it is highly needed to get to places, because not the average bear can get to some of the top leagues and the top points without a little bit of smack.
And
Right?
for those people who are actively trying to top the charts, I can see how that kind of thing would be important. But as someone who oftentimes is just trying to relax after work, the people who spend so much time on a game that they actively act like a man-child when they lose and start berating their teammates because they lost, it is honestly sad for me to see, because I have been on both sides of it. And I honestly feel that oftentimes there's just no need for the kind of negativity that's thrown around in a lot of casual matches of competitive games. People who are just trying to, try out new stuff.
I'll keep going.
All right. Well, my thing is if you're I will say this one thing that I've always stuck with is, if someone's new to a game, they shouldn't be put in the same level as some of the higher end players, because at the same time, if players are going to be on a different scale and they can't compete at the same level and the same skill, it's frustrating on both ends. And for a player who is used to having strong teams, or just going against strong teams and then having something weak, the fact that it becomes boring too, because if you're playing against a team and the team can't even be a bit of a challenge, it just becomes boring as well.
And that's kind of where a lot of games will implement skill-based matchmaking, to where as you progress, as you do get better and you do start doing better within your team, you will get progressively more difficult matches.
Yeah. And the toxicity is going to be different in those levels, because again, you're not getting attacked for just being bad. You might just get attacked like, ha, I fucking got you finally, right? And at the same time, it's also the toying with your food, because at the same time, you have that whole thing of, if you can frustrate your enemy, there's a chance that you can beat them as well. It's just a different type of toxicity at that point.
The big bit about the toxicity that I have experienced in, again, I'm going to use shooters as an example, is not necessarily in-match toxicity, it's afterwards. People saying things like, "Get a life, you neckbeard," and people who berate their teams like, dude, why didn't you snipe that guy? I marked him for you. You should have had a clean shot. And meanwhile, your teammate was on the other side of the map while you're trying to not get murked by 3 different sniper positions. There are certain things that, yes, toxicity happens, but a lot of the times when I experience toxicity in those competitive games, it's after the fact of your teammates who supposedly did better than everyone else berating you for not being as good as them, instead of, again, trying to teach you up and make suggestions.
All right. I think we got a couple good points across on that one. And there was no hostility towards each other, which is a win.
Woo! Self 5.
Yeah, I didn't think we would.
No.
Well, some debates you start off that way, and then they do get hostile, especially when people get passionate about certain debates. Because I'm just saying, on my end, I can be passionate about either side of this topic, which is kind of why I wanted to not give either y'all the edge in this topic of knowing what you're going to get before you chose. Because it's very easy to choose the side of the topic you want with a mindset of, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to say. But it's different when you get shoved into it randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
The-
I actually told Knight, though, I actually support both sides already, because
Yeah,
I was
we
extremely
conversed
toxic
before, and we're both
Yeah.
like, I can see both sides.
Because, yeah, I was super toxic before I met you guys.
And I mean, that is part of it. There is a place for toxicity in gaming, especially in the competitive scene.
Well, yeah,
But
because I
at the
played
same
League.
at the same time,
Ugh.
there is a level of professionalism that needs to be in it as well.
Mhm.
So, like for me, playing competitive, it was like when I tell people shooter FPSs are baby compared to how they used to be, as far as like the trash talk and everything. Yeah, like there's a reason they implement systems that actually ban you for saying certain words now. It is partly my generation's fault. And a lot of things that was said during those times were not seen as such a negative light due to the fact that most of it was young computer or young gaming age. So a lot of people said a lot of stupid shit that they wouldn't say nowadays, especially. But it also made people more stubborn, more hard headed, and more, oh, you're going to trash talk me? Well, I'm going to come back and stomp you next time, and then I'm going to trash talk you. Because back when I was playing games, when you were in a lobby, you were in the same lobby until you quit. There was no, oh, you're finding a new lobby after this game, so you can trash talk all you want. It's like, no, you trash talk, you're facing them again. And so, like, that's part of the side that I look at of it's one of those things to where toxicity modern day, we can hear you chewing. Modern day competitive side, you can see that, yeah, trash talking can be beneficial, but it also can be hampering or even toxic behavior because, like Knight said, he's experienced both sides coming into competitive shooting. He fought with someone who was very toxic in his teaching and someone who was very helpful in his teaching. So he had a better understanding in this subject of how toxicity being taught, especially, can be more hampering than helpful. Now, at the same time, it can also be, if you try to protect them too much, it ends up being hurtful more than helpful at the same time.
Yeah. And see, like, FPSs are still not, like, anything I could really talk too much about. But again, I played League. And in MMOs, we also have PvP in there. And that shit gets so salty. Because again, you can't... Those people you're always going to be in the same region with them, and they will slander your name as well if they're really pissed off, which then starts wars with groups of people. And when I say toxicity can grow, toxicity really grows in MMOs.
Yep.
Especially if you do a lot of bad shit.
Leroy Jenkins.
That's the core of my strategy in shooters.
Well, the downside is in MMOs, he was banned from a lot of parties for doing that.
Yep. But again, some people think it's funny. But I mean, like, toxicity in there is pretty fucking high at times. It was kind of why, like, I stepped away from MMOs too, because it became a job. And mind you, I did enjoy them, but once it became a job, it wasn't as fun to me anymore. But you kind of like I said, like I was, because like I was the support, and you get people who come in gun ho thinking support class is easy, and then they learn the hard way that it's not, and they also learn that without that healer or without that support class, nothing goes down, right?
Yeah.
And the best way to teach that is I become a monster and I let them die over and over and over again. And I'll wipe a whole team to prove a point as well. I've killed a 25-man raid because of a comment made. I had no problems with it. Yes, it got very frustrating to a lot of people, but until people got into line, it was just the way to do it.
Well, I think we've said a lot of good topics on that debate. How about we do one quick round debate? And this one's going to be special because it's y'all versus me.
Oh, good God.
And I'm going to let y'all pick the topic. And you'll get to pick your side first after choosing the topic. So we have topical ones. We have fighting in the NHL. Should it be allowed or should it not be? Let's see. Another one that I've been contemplating on. Which one should I choose? Okay. When it comes to, this is another one that's more competitive gameplay wise. Should the leader be someone that's been with the group for a while, or can the leader be chosen at will? Em would probably understand that one more.
Yes, I have a lot to say about that.
And then the last one, I will say, you know what? Let's go with another topical one that affected us all recently. If a game developer shuts down, should they release the IP to the public?
And I will let you, Prop Knight.
I will let y'all decide which of those three topics you want, as well as which side of it you want.
Oh, boy.
What do you like, Knight?
I feel like I don't know enough about hockey to be able to get a decent stance for that one.
Okay. Well, I have been out of hockey for a long time, so we can agree on that. What about your thing about leadership? Because that's actually a very good one. And this can stand for almost any type of game that has like a leadership program in it.
Yeah.
Because it even goes like with discords and communities.
Yeah, let's go with the leadership topic.
All right, so y'all choose leadership. Which side are you standing on? Are you standing on that the leader should be one person that runs it from basically the beginning, or it can be chosen at random? Meaning that if they wanted to, the leader can be someone completely different the next day.
The next day, or just like it's a possibility of changing? Because see that complicates it just a little bit.
Okay, let's say
it can be changed.
It can be changed, but it's more whimsical than Okay, so how we'll separate this better is that one is basically voted in and one's just decided. So like one is just like on a whim. So if we're saying like a raid or something like that, some guy just randomly goes, "Oh, I'll be a lead." Versus like the party says he becomes lead.
I would be against for reasons. If that's the way we're going to be doing it.
Because I couldn't say that it's just one leader the entire time and then the other one is just the leader can change, because then that complicates the entire thing, because then you can bring up tyranny or anything like that, which would divulge the
toxic
topic.
leadership.
It's still a little bit complicated. I'd almost say it's like whimsical. I kind of see as like it's not always the same person. It does change up. Actually, no, that kind of works. Yeah, it changes up constantly. So
it's no longer guaranteed to be like, oh, this person is the most skilled and qualified for it, so we're going to choose him. It's just
gonna be
okay.
random.
This time George is leading.
Yeah, no. Okay, yeah, okay. If we go with that, I would definitely be against.
So
Knight,
you
would you be
are.
against?
So when you say against, what are you saying for? Like that they have to
I'm
be
not.
voted or whimsical?
I do not like whimsical.
Okay, so you're saying they have to be voted.
Pro vote in.
Pro vote in, yeah.
Okay.
Pro alone.
Well, since it's
I'm hungry.
since it's both of
I
y'all,
food. I've worked all day with no food. I was hungry.
if it's both of y'all versus me, I'm gonna say y'all get the first one, and we'll do the normal 5-minute timer.
All right.
Okay.
I'll. How about we do half and half? I do 2.5, and you do 2.5, kind of thing.
Sure.
And I will let you do like FPSs and whatnot, because again, those are not my forte. But I'll use MMOs as actually very good for this one. Oh,
All right.
I got a lot to say about that. All right, I'm good. You ready?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
would
we'll
you
do
like to
2.5 minutes. Yeah, I'll start.
All
Okay.
right, and go ahead and start.
So my thing with this is you definitely cannot be constantly changing leadership, because it does mess up the group. If you have like leadership is not just something that can be given lightly and to anyone, because not everyone is meant to lead, as well as when you take a group into any type of circumstance where you need them to be on their game and they need someone who's going to be telling people what they need to do or just barking out orders, you need someone who has like the right type of leadership skills, the charisma, and also very clear orders and knows what they're doing. Because if you just have John Smo in the back going, okay, everyone, do your job, it doesn't work. They need to know the classes. They need to know the stuff, like everything that's happening. They have to be far more aware than everyone else. Because in the end, if stuff doesn't go correctly, they're the ones who actually has to hold has to take responsibility. And when you have just random people who take it, they'll normally find other people to blame, but yet not look at it full. Because at the same time, if you're not saying, hey, I need like these type of like DPS style people or these people to move forward, or I need you guys to focus on this, things get messy. And I've seen really good freaking groups of people get messed up by the wrong leadership, because when you get mixed signals and stuff, it doesn't work. And normally with most leaderships that have worked well, they're always the leader. People get comfortable with them, because at the same time, when you do grow into a group where you need a leader, you have to have someone who everyone understands, knows what they want, and then works with that. Because when you don't know what's going to happen, being a fart in the wind is the worst, especially when you're doing something very competitive and very hard. And I think that's as much as I need to say for that part, at least for my end. Knight?
So, in the case of shooters, you brought up the point of you need someone who understands what's going on. Using more tactical styled shooters as an example, stuff like Ready or Not or 0 Hour, you need someone who understands the tactics of how to move through a room. And if you've just got Billy Joe Bob who doesn't understand a lick of tactics, you're going to have an infinitely more difficult time progressing through the different stages of the game. And as someone who does understand some of those tactics, even I still struggle with some things, especially when it comes to communication. If you were to just throw it out on a whim, maybe you get someone who's a little more soft-spoken, who's like, hey guys, can you like move to the left a little? You need someone who's going to be able to take charge and speak with authority. Someone who says, move left, shift left, cover my rear. There's a sniper up in the tower.
1 minute remaining.
And in that case, it would be much more beneficial to the group to have someone who understands those tactics and is able to communicate effectively to the group. And it also has to be someone that the group trusts. Let's say there's a troll in the group and he takes charge for a day. There is the potential that he's gonna just let you die because he thinks it's funny.
30 seconds.
I've said my piece.
You're
can
conceding the
also
rest of
use
your time?
No, we can use it here
Okay.
quickly.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw in quickly. Look at us with GTA when we do our heists. Who's always our leader because he knows what he's doing, and he does make sure that we get it done. Dino. No one ever takes it. It's like we understand what we're supposed to do, but he just has the skill to lead. That's why he leads.
Okay. You just had to throw my name into the bucket.
I was trying to avoid using names.
Oh.
Sorry, I just it was just.
I mean, even
was
with the
sitting there.
previous one, I kind of like when I was bringing up like how I was taught, I didn't say, well, Dino kind of threw me to the wolves at first, but he actually actively coached me through it. I was like,
Yeah.
what some of my mentors did was they would make suggestions on how I can get better.
Well, one of
But
your
look-
mentors.
Yeah, but like
I've
I said,
had a
I'm
couple,
just looking
but
at if we're gonna take something that we all do, GTA.
yeah,
Every time we do any type of heist and whatnot, Dino's our leader. We don't question it, even if there's someone who knows what they're doing and everything else. It's just that's what we're good with because it's solid every single time. He's good at telling us what to get done and make sure that we stay in line. That we don't. We know we if we're being goofy, he puts us back in track. It's just better that way. I would never want to change that up just because it works and it's worked well for all the time we've done heist.
All right. Now I've got to debate why it can be willy-nilly. I always get the fun debates, don't I? Let's do this. So if we're going to be talking about having a leadership role in any form of combat, whether it be RPGs, MMOs, FPSs, or anything of that sort, while typically it is done with a voted-in leadership, it can also be brought into light that it also can be whimsical, meaning that the leadership can change on a dime. Main reasons why, if you actually look into the competitive scenes, usually they actually will end up doing this as a trick play because while you do have your main leadership, you also have secondary leadership, tertiary or tertiary leadership, and all that because you can throw people through such a loop. Because if they know your game plan going into it and you swap it on the fly and no one knows what you're thinking, you can actually make people slip up, as well as the fact that your strategy could get better or it could get worse. But that is also part of the infinite evolution of gameplay in the time span of video games in general, that we are ever evolving and constantly getting better and or worse because we are constantly taking secondary leaps that would be deemed idiotic at times or just flat out crazy. And due to the fact that we are constantly trying to do stuff that is deemed illogical, like voting in new leadership or just doing whimsical, which I kind of prefer at times, you can all of a sudden discover a rough gem, someone who is a natural born leader, but never had the courage to try for being voted up because they did not believe in themselves. But due to them being randomly thrown into the mist, they actually really quickly adapt, evolve, and actually come up with a brilliant strategy. As well as another point that you can bring into it, yes, most people, while they're playing games, have a singular role. That is their specialty. But when they are thrown into the mix of actually having to do a leadership role at the same time of doing their role, they're meant to expand out what their thought process is and actually take in every person's role that they're running with to where they actually have to consider, oh, hey, that's my healer. I need to make sure that they're protected, but they also able to do their job of making sure my tanks are being healed so that way they can take the damage while the main damage force are able to get their attacks in, but not draw the aggro of the creature that we're attacking. Same way as FPSs go, if you look at a lot of bold plays that have been done in the past, especially even in competitive gaming, if you look at someone's pro strategy, it usually devolves around someone's being taught this is the game plan. You do this, 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 this. Versus if you see some of the wildcard plays where if a team's leading by any number of points and they're feeling way too overconfident for no apparent reason, they'll actually appoint someone else that has never been leadership, probably was just like the fifth member of their entire squad. They bring them in and say, hey, you tell us what to do this time. They come up with a plan on the fly, and sometimes it works out fantastically, other times it does not. But that bit of experience does end up going a long way because now this guy has developed a new form of knowledge as well as a new idea of like, hey, this strategy does not work. So now I know in the future, if I ever end up in this position once again, I can actually take that knowledge, put it into my new game plan, and push forward and actually do better going into the next thing. And I can see the rest of my time.
Great boyo.
Did you breathe at all during that?
I know. I'm like, holy crap, he is going 1,000 miles an hour here.
I love debates.
I'm not saying that you can't. It was just holy shit.
God, man. The fucking shotgun blast of information.
It's like, ugh.
I had to cover a minimum 2 topics because y'all brought up 2 different planes.
Well, again, you have to remember too. I'm not. Unfortunately, in my scenario, I can't say too much about FPSs.
Oh, I know,
'Cause-
but that's I appreciate your knowledge because that's also why I dropped the knowledge I have on MMOs as well.
Mhm. And like I'll say, like when it comes to finding out someone has the skills, it is true. But I think there's a time and place for it, to be honest, and it's not just randomly as well. Because you'll get like sometimes, especially like for like MMOs, and again I'll use raids, having someone randomly take over with people not knowing can either make or break and then cause a lot of drama. And trust me, when I say drama, I mean fucking drama.
Well,
I don't know how many fights I've ever had to break up in those things, but
Tony broke up with me.
I was gonna say hold on to it because you got
Honey,
another
looking at my
5-minute
house.
rebuttal.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just let you go ahead and start your rebuttal now. I'll divide it up to 2.
Because I'm
Yep.
already in it.
Yep.
Because my thing is if I'm like in a game and say your main leader went up to me and went, "Hey, I'm thinking of just throwing this person into running it just because I want to see what their skill level is on, and I think they have it, but they're just been really quiet." I'd be like, "Cool. Can we at least bring people who are cool with this? Because there are certain people who ain't going to be cool with this. Because you have to remember, like, if people don't know what's going to happen and they're used to a certain group, and especially counting on your competitiveness or like elitism, whatever you want to fucking call it, having some random person come in on a whim does not go well with every person. You might enjoy it. Maybe your best friend would enjoy it. But if you're, like I say, like if you have a party of 25 and, over 50% of them are not happy with it, it's going to show. Because it also will affect, like, the morale and bring down the group. Because then sometimes, too, someone would be like, I don't like this guy. He's not showing what I need. You know what? If he's going to act like, he's not giving me the clear thing to do, I'm just going to do what I'm going to always do. And then it messes up the group. And then the morale goes down. The game doesn't go well. And it might not be the problem of the person who's leading, but because the group itself was not prepared for it. And I do believe that if you are going to change something like that, it can't just be on the fly. It cannot just be random. Because you have to take in the fact that not everyone's going to be cool with it. And then it's going to show. And then may that person actually have, as you say, the skill to lead. They're not going to be able to lead properly because people aren't on board. You have to have a group that's actually willing to take lead from another person. Even if it's only a one-time shot, because maybe that person doesn't have the skills in the end. But it's a... I don't like being thrown into random shit. Especially if, like, someone was like, you're going to lead. And especially if I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not going to lead with my great skills either. I will probably lead with shit skills. Even if I know the shit in the back of my hand.
2.5
But that's
minutes.
just my opinion. Alright, Knight's turn.
So, I do understand that there are ways you can kind of scoot around the idea of we need a plan. And if you are leading, there is that bit of play area where you can switch up the leader and say, hey, you do this time. But different side of the same coin, if you are losing, you don't really want someone who is inexperienced to take a shot in the dark. You are going to want someone who the group knows, the group works together well with, to take charge and say, hey, I've kind of judged what their basic strategy is. Here's what we're going to do to combat it. And in that case, you need someone who is going to be able to clearly communicate what it appears that the enemy is doing, and what each role should do in response. And because of that, there is a fine line between whimsical leadership being necessary to kind of further the next generation of leaders, and when push comes to shove, needing someone who's going to be able to take charge. So, being able to take charge is very important in a leader.
30 seconds.
Because if you can't get your stuff together on the fly, like if you're sitting there going, what do I do? Help. That's not someone you want to lead your group. I'm done.
Okay.
I've said my piece.
I was like, I think you're done. You
All
went
right. Processing.
Would have been enough.
His dream job
I got
is
a
to become
$30
an
beard.
auctioneer.
I got a $30 beard.
They get a 35 for 35, 35, 35 over there, 36, 37. Come on.
It's like,
All right.
free.
Auctioneer voice, boy.
Oh no, he's going for it now.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I know one of the big things that we were talking about is that y'all were mentioning how, or you were specifically talking about how if you go into a raid, you need to tell people. Well, the big thing about what I'm referring to as far as like just whimsical is that the group you're running with knows that already is occurring. So it's not sporadic. It's nothing that they don't know is going to occur. The only thing that they don't know is who is going to be the leader of that. So therefore, I can see your argument, but I do not think it's applicable in this certain intention because it was already stated in the debate topic that it was already known that it was going to be a whimsical, not a vote-in. So
Yeah,
that
but I would still. But the
you don't
problem would
get the
still
rebuttal
be.
yet.
No, I don't. No.
You don't get a rebuttal yet.
No. Yeah.
Sit down. So that's part of the reason why I don't think that side of the argument can be used in this, because if it was to be used at the same time, it'd be like, what if your party leader failed you? Do you just whimsically choose someone else? Do you have to vote someone else in? Usually it's done sporadically, whoever is deemed second best in command. So therefore, at the same time, if your first leader fails, someone else takes over by a whim. Now, as far as we go into the other side of the spectrum, as far as the shooter side, I've already forgotten the majority of the talking points I was going to say for this, so I'm going to go off a whim on this one. So I'll put it as a prime example. When people want to learn to play as a leadership role, it is usually talked about. How I do it differently is I throw people into a leadership role, whether they're expecting it or not, and I just tell them, you have control. If you need help, holler at me, and I'll give you advice. So therefore, they do instinctively start to adapt those skills. And while, yes, it can be retroactive because, maybe they are a little bit soft-spoken, maybe they have a little bit of a trouble actually, like, figuring out in their mind, this is what you should do, or forgets to communicate. The point of being just whimsically thrown into that position is you have to think more. And usually you do have a secondary lead that you can back up to and say, hey, what should I do in this situation? You do, this is what I would suggest, is all they'll ever say generally, because it's not their role to command the leader of the group. So while he's doing that, you are learning through seeing what he's saying, as well as getting the onboard experience of actually doing it yourself versus having someone just leading you watching from afar, because you don't understand while watching everything that goes into play about it. And that is a big thing about how I even adapted my way of being a leadership, is because I was thrown into it randomly. So therefore, most of mine is adapted from you just throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks, basically. Now, it can be applicable in all forms of gaming. We brought up GTA as well, about how it's always been, I was voted in to be the leader. And that is just because y'all trust me to lead, yes. But at the same time, if we wanted to throw anyone else in, I'm perfectly fine with it, because it is a idea of, I like everyone knowing what to do, so that way we can eventually be a not a one mindset. That way everyone knows the general premise is what we're supposed to do going in. And I can hear you chewing. We have a general.
Chewing.
Oh, I heard something moving. We have a general. Everyone will have a general mindset because they've experienced that leadership at the same time, to where we are slowly but surely getting better without having to do proper communication channels to each other the entire time. So we could just do a short-sighted word, or just a simple saying of like, over there, green wall, blue wall, high, low, something like that. But due to the fact that most of us have experienced that leadership and have that same leadership experience, as well as that understanding of certain things, we now going forward have that idea in our mind. There's a lot of things I could say more about it, but I'm running short on time. And so my key points I'm going to leave off with, while yes, there are many flaws to letting someone just randomly and whimsically being put into a leadership role in certain genres, it's not always seen as negative in other genres. Some genres are very hard to, due to the fact that there's a lot of skill that you have to consider, as well as a lot of insight, like MMOs or even in D&D groups, because there's a lot you have to consider. Versus if you go into an FPS, you have less roles you have to worry about, because you usually have a breacher, a second, and a tertiary going in, as well as someone to cover your six. And that is all I have.
Going back to what I was saying, the thing is I've been in groups where we didn't know who was leading until it started, and that did not go well at all. No. And that's where I was trying to go, because yes, like, you have to, like I said, you have to tell people, because at the same time, if it's just randomly picked as soon as you're going in, hey, who wants to lead, it doesn't work. It never does. or just being randomly picked. It has to be decided beforehand, is where I was going with that.
Well, I'm not saying that it's chosen after you enter. It's still chosen before the entry at all. Like
Well, yeah, it's at the
there's
gate.
still talking done about what is going to occur. I'm not saying that you get into the dungeon and then all of a sudden it's like, oh hey, who's leading? Oh, it's this guy. Why? It's
No,
talked about beforehand before you even start the initial raid or anything like that.
before any raid that I've ever been in, you get the party together, you get the feast going. It always takes like almost 30 minutes to an hour before the raid even begins, because there's always that one person who forgets their bloody fucking potions, and then they have to go back, and then you gotta get this, or they gotta go get something else. And the fact is a leader being picked during that time just randomly, which set so many people into haywire. Because again, there's some people who do not get along with certain people. They will play with them, but they will never listen to them. And that's the thing that I've learned. And and especially, and of course, you even brought up D&D. Hey, Knight, how would you like to just suddenly be the dungeon master?
Well, the dungeon master's not the leader. I'm saying leader of a party.
Oh, leader of the party. But no, like a person who leads, right? It's just being like thrown, right? And again, like D&D is kind of, you kind of have the people that you expect to take lead already, especially how they build their classes. But it's the same thing like with like the dungeon master 2.2, right? It's kind of, because as much as you're saying it's not, it is a leader. It's a leader of, because they're the one who, because how many times do you the players will fall off the path and start doing something completely off the charts that they weren't supposed to be doing. It is the dungeon master who has to bring them back in. I'm sure you watched many podcasts too of the dungeon master needing to take steps to get them back on track. It's same thing, right? There's only certain people who can pull those roles.
And yeah, I do agree with that at the same time, but I still don't consider the dungeon master themselves to be a leader due to the fact that you can't, like, unless you talk about it beforehand and like actually give prep time, you can't really vote a DM to be sporadic due to the fact that unless you're playing a one shot to where everything's already laid out, it would be nigh near impossible to make up a good story on the fly, as I can tell you from experience. But like, if we even go back into like MMOs, or even like if we want to devolve into shooters, because we have a minute and 30 seconds left of this, like, Knight, do you have any input?
It's mainly a, like you were saying with M&I's debate, is I can see the benefits of both sides. But in all honesty, it for me it's time and a place.
Yeah.
There's a time and a
It is time and
place to
place.
be like, hey, you're taking charge this time. Wait, what? Why me? Because you need the experience. Versus, hey, we're down in this raid. We're getting our asses handed to us in this. Okay. And one guy who everybody works well together with going, here's what we're going to do. I need my tanks up front, followed by the healers with ranged behind them to make sure that the healers aren't taking as much damage.
And I mean, I can see that as well, but at the same time, like, while it is nice to have someone with a mindset, and we're gonna just completely forgo time and place because we're just basing it solely on that you already had this all planned out, that someone was gonna be randomly selected, and we're gonna just say that while yes, time and a place is a big thing about it, we're not going to allow that to cloud the judgment of it, because if we did, then everything is just situational. It's no longer the debate of someone being sporadically chosen as leader versus someone who's planned as a leader, because 9 times out of 10, if you are going to do something like really hardcore, you're always going to plan a leader. You're never going to sporadically choose a leader. versus like if your guild that you're running with is always like the big thing when you're first brought into it, they tell you, hey, anyone can be the leader at any point in time. We vote on it before we even talk about doing this raid. Or you play in a shooter and it's like a actual like real strategical shooter, and they're like, hey, just so you know, before we even get into this game, this guy's going to be the leader. Well, what's his experience? He doesn't have none. Oh, okay. Well, I don't really approve of that, but okay, that's fine. Like, what we're going to say that you have the knowledge before anything is even set up at all, that this is how it will be. It's either planned or it is spontaneous. Because then we get rid of that one little threshold, because like I said, if you always had it to where it was like 100% full Yeehard NASCAR, like you will never see a real super competitive clan do a random, because that goes against their ID or ideals as well as their game plans. Versus if you have a bunch of friends that just bullshit all the time, they're gonna always just choose someone random because they just see it as funny. Sometimes they'll choose someone that is very ill equipped, and they do just like shenanigan rounds all the time.
For most things too.
But that's why I'm saying this is a broad term of voted in leadership versus sporadic leadership. We never simply stated that this was like during raids or during super competitive. We were just saying like in clans as well as a few other things, if it was better to have it voted in or sporadic. Because if we did in competitive, I would have had a lot of different topics to bring up, like especially if we go into the MLG league of competitive gameplay. Because there are very successful clans that literally rotate their squad lead every single game, because they want every one of them can run their squad. So that way, when you face them off, you don't know who you're facing as well as which gameplay you're going to have to face off against.
All right.
But that is the end of that debate.
Yeah.
Because we both had some good points. We did get a little off topic on some of them, but Hazel, you coming in here because the wind's bad? Come on, baby.
Is
All
it?
right. Oh, it's windy outside. So I think it's best to go ahead and end the podcast here before I lose power.
That's a good idea.
All right. Any closing thoughts?
It was really interesting to kind of be able to get that little bit of a gauge where I'm at, to be able to argue a point effectively, clearly, and kind of a good exercise of being able to think on the fly.
It's a good skill to learn.
Yeah.
Em, any closing thoughts?
I had fun.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you all for coming out for the Just a Sec podcast, where we air new episodes on Spotify. That's right. I got that shit figured out finally.
Fuck
Every
yeah.
Monday. They post every Monday on Spotify and every Tuesday on YouTube. Don't ask why I did that, because that's just kind of how it ended up working out for me. You can catch me, Section 8, at twitch.tv/Section8, youtube.com/Section8, as well as on Instagram at Section8, and on X, technically, at Section8 Gaming. You can also catch KnightWolf at twitch.tv/KnightWolf Games. If you go into the Discord at the Dino Pack, which will be in the description below, you can also come and join that, where we constantly post a bunch of shenanigans, as well as we'll constantly post when we're going live as well. So thank you all once again for coming out and joining me, my beloved guests, as well as Knight. And I guess that's where we end it. So thanks everyone for coming out and listening to it, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.